Okay. Hey, and welcome to our talk, What's New in AWS Full Stack App Development. My name is Mark, and with me is my co-presenter, Sally. We are both based out of Berlin, and we have a background in full stack development, and that's probably what brought us here to have that talk with you. So what you will see today is that I'm talking about what's new in full stack development, obviously, because that's the thing in its talk. And obviously, one of the biggest changes that happened in the last 2 years is how generative AI is being used during development, and full stack development is not any different. And because we don't want to make this a sales show and telling you that Gen AI is solving all of your problems, we will go and have an honest checkpoint with you. So where the gaps are, what Gen AI can do, where it doesn't do well, and what we can do about it. And to make the things real, we will have a live demo with Sally. So he's as brave as it can be, and he will go and is coding live for you an app on the stage. So let me see who we have here today. So who of you would identify as a full stack developer? Please raise your hands. Okay, that's pretty much the majority. Nice. I think you found the right talk. And how many of you are using Gen AI tools day to day to do software development? Okay, that's a bit less. Maybe we can change that a little bit. And then now tell me, who of you use generative AI and checking it in right away to prod without checking it twice or triple? Okay, that's what I thought. Nobody is doing that, and I'm very happy about that. So what's a full stack developer? For me, a full stack developer is handling the entire stack. Front end, back end, databases, and obviously most of you will be able to just code an idea up into prod and actually have it right away. So who of you are full stack developers because the team is small or they are maybe solo running their own startup? Who of you is actually a full stack developer because the circumstances are like that? Yes, okay. And for me, full stack development has something beauty in it. It is a very pragmatic approach. It's about velocity and ownership. So because you are usually alone on building your application, and you can actually build everything from the back end to the front end. You have an idea, you can bring it all the way through. This is what is the prototype of an entrepreneur. So a single person with a great idea and a great mind and great skills can build it all. But while you have all of this control, it also comes at a certain cost. So you need to deal with a lot of complexity. So most of the things that you are dealing with and juggling, those things are a mental burden. You have to deal with all the different things that might break in the night. You have to deal with security vulnerabilities that you need to keep track of. Oh, this stack now has a new update and there's a new vulnerability found. And is my app really working all the way through? And all of a sudden you're on TV or, I don't know, some social media outlet, and does it scale? And all of that you have to deal with, but it's not something that you will enjoy all the time. And in the last year, the nature of that complexity shifted. It's not that Gen AI solves all of that. It's more that the complexity shifted into a different style of dealing with the complexity. So what do you need as a full stack developer? So you have to deal with hosting. So you have to deal with the content delivery network, with your DNS records. You have infrastructure as code, hopefully, because you're not doing ClickOps. You have to deal with your API gateway configuration, your compute, your database, your storage, your authentication, all of it. And not only that, but you also have a pager, because between all of those integration points that you have to deal with, there might also be a little bit of business logic that you need to implement to actually make that app real. And at least in my time as a full stack developer. Things usually break at 3 a.m. in the morning when you really don't expect that, or on a Sunday afternoon when you're out there with your kids. So dealing with all of those things is a lot on your plate. And Gen AI in the last 2 years actually gave you a boost, right? So you're much more productive. You get a lot more things done, but faster's not always better. So how I see Gen AI, and I don't know if this is my quote, at least it comes to mind. For me, Gen AI is the fastest keyboard on earth. But it's not really more than that, right? There's still someone that needs to know what you want to achieve. Gen AI usually does not have an intent. It does not have an objective to reach. It is something that brings you fast forward, and it creates very confidently a lot of code. And most of the time, the code is correct. But do you know if it is having the best practices? Does it give you secure components? So you have this fast pace now that you need to deal with. And fast also means a lot more complexity in understanding that. So, and if you remember in the last 20 years, when we had to deal with complex integration projects, there were frameworks that helped us through it. And that's not any different today. So if you think about Amplify, which is a full stack application framework from AWS, it has comprehensive service coverage. It has global hosting, TypeScript for full stack development, and it gives you CI/CD pipelines, it gives you a sandbox, it gives you UI building components, and all of them fit very well together. And it lets you use CDK to define your infrastructure and expand that infrastructure with escape hatches where Amplify does not have a component for you right away. And what's new is we also put some effort into making it easier for Hero, Cursor, or your preferred AI tool to actually use it. So the cool thing about Amplify is it's out there for 7 years or so, and it is used globally in hundreds of thousands of apps. So all the components that are defined in Amplify, they actually work. They're battle tested. We have fixed all the bugs, and we keep it current. And now, if you use Gen AI, the problem that most of us have seen is if you ask it to create you a database, it goes with Python code and Boto 3 and gives you all the SDK calls required to actually set up your database. And that might not be what you want. And it might also not give you guidance on if you want to use Aurora database or DynamoDB. Obviously, I always want a Dynamo, but that might not be the right thing for your specific use case. And to get your specific use case there is not so easy. It is a lot of prompting that is happening. So Amplify is helping you with giving you predefined constructs that you can base on. And that helps the AI to actually limit the scope of possibilities, which then also gives you a lot less code that you have to review. So Amplify, as I said, is already out there for a long time. And just alone this year, we have built 31 major features. And that was like basically multiple deployments of new things every month. So to just pick out a few, CDK, we integrated all across Amplify. And one thing that we integrated this year was the CDK toolkit library, which allows you to programmatically using CDK under the hood. And what it gives you is full abstractions of L2 and L3 constructs that you can use. And CDK promises to have the AWS best practices built in so that you can rely on that to be the right thing that you want to use. So the other thing that we built quite heavily on was storage browser, so all the pink ones here. Storage browser is basically a micro site that you can embed, and it helps you to host or to manage your files on S3. It gives you permissions, it gives you download capabilities with multi-file downloads, thumbnails, custom validation for file uploads. You can share them privately or with a certain group. So you have really enterprise control over what's needed in your in your file storage. And the cool thing about that is you don't have to build that with custom code and Gen AI. You can just drop in that one, and you know that you have all the capabilities that you require. But we wouldn't be AWS if security would not be our prime focus. And that's the one that also is scaring most people off when it comes to Gen AI. Am I really sure that all the code that is being generated is secure? I have some hard time sometimes to review all of the code that is being reviewed, that's being generated. So if you can see, there's a drumbeat of security-related features that we built into Amplify this year. There was web application firewall integration. There's passkey support, which helps you to log in as a customer. And one thing that probably is a very tedious task is refresh token rotation. So if any one of you ever had certificate that ran out of time and just broke in a moment, it's a lot of hassle to actually get that back up. And I have never seen that there is a perfect way to deal with that. And it's something that just requires a lot of automation and consciousness about that to be the case. We also released email MFA. If you're like me, you don't like to give your phone number to any website just for logins, email MFA might be a way to deal with that. The last thing I would like to highlight is something that is Svelte support. Svelte is not just yet another JavaScript framework that we integrated in Amplify. It was done by the community. So Amplify is an open source community project, and we are super happy with our community contributing to it. And when Svelte became famous, there were people that were actually saying that, oh, I would really like to use Svelte within Amplify, because they already had mobile applications with Amplify, and on the websites they wanted to use Svelte for whatever reason, because they liked it. And so I said, okay, let's help and get that out there. And now Svelte is fully supported in Amplify, and I think it's something that we should continue doing. So, and I know there's a lot going on that slide, but those are not random features. So our mental model about Amplify is that we want to build you a framework that is a rock-solid foundation for production-grade apps. And all of those things that we have built in, we're also with the mindset of, okay, so if you want to be part of this new Gen AI wave, where people are using more and more things like Kiro, Lovable, any vibe coding platforms, we need to make sure that the things that are really hard to get right are built into the framework so that Gen AI doesn't have to guess it. And all of what we have built here actually brings us closer to a framework that can be easier accessible by AI, because it does not have to guess how certain things have to be done. Token rotation is something I don't want to have custom code for. I would like to know that this was tested all the way through in production and I can trust. So we have done some strategic investments into what would Gen AI need from a framework to actually make things better for customers. So how is Amplify with Gen AI? So how many of you are using Cursor, Kiro, or any of those tools? Okay, it's a few. You should try it. It's actually pretty amazing. Even I, as a manager, now can code again, which is pretty cool to see. So many times when I was creating software with one of those Gen AI tools, the suggestions were going in the right direction, but they were not exactly matching my intent. So there's a lot of context in my mind of what I want to build, and the only way that I can transfer it into a generic Gen AI tool is I prompt. And I don't know if you have tried, but I ran into doom prompting over and over again because it just didn't get it right in the first place. And then I iterated over it, and at some point I just gave up and said, okay, let me do it myself. So if you ever experience that, this is not great, right? So you feel at some point like, okay, is this Gen AI thing really real? Does it really help me? And it feels so tedious, because why do I need to explain all of those things? It should be more obvious what has to happen, but GenAI does not have the context of your last 2 years of development. It does not know what Peter did last week, and it does not know what was discussed in your last sprint planning. And yes, you can maybe have something that is listening to all of your conversation and put it all in, but then the context is too big and doesn't work either. So let's go back to the first principle. So how do we get into a place where GenAI knows what it needs to know to make proper choices in your software development lifecycle? So I hope no one of you ever had to build their own JSON parser, because there's libraries out there. So GenAI should not try to reinvent the wheel and build everything from scratch, but using things that are already ready-made. So last year, the Stack Overflow survey said that 84% of developers were using GenAI on a daily basis or intended to do so. I guess this year it's even higher, and I didn't check. The benefits are real, right? So you can get a lot more things done much faster, but it also sometimes is tedious, as I said. And so now what happened this year is that we try to close the gap on the context that the GenAI needs to have to actually make proper decisions on what needs to happen. And one emerging technology in this year was the Model Context Protocol. Model Context Protocol is a way that I can define a server for GenAI that it can actually ask certain things. So how do I do this? I have the following task. Is there any best practices or documentation that I might need to pull into my context window? And we have released a Model Context Protocol server called AWS MCP. And that one embodies the documentation of AWS, all the different, we have a lot of documentation, not only like the main documentation, but a lot of outlets, blog posts and everything, best practices. And the cool thing about MCP, it's not only documentation, it's not like RAG. It also gives you the ability to define workflows in a specific predefined manner. It's called SOPs, like standard operating procedures. So if you want to create a database, it does it in a certain way so that it follows best practices. So use CDK under the hood, have a certain configuration there, make sure that it's secure, that your S3 buckets are not publicly available. Stuff like that, right? All of those things that otherwise you might need to go through tedious prompt cycles are already there, and the model can take the right choices from the get-go. So the problem that we have seen is that if you take a generic GenAI tool, only in 10% of the cases it was creating production-ready software. So most of the time it compiled, it actually worked, but all the nitty-gritty details that you want to have in this code and that you would choose directly, they were not there. They were not configured correctly. They missed maybe the index for your DynamoDB table. They choose Aurora over Dynamo or vice versa, no matter what it is. And that's why you had to iterate over it. With MCP, we can make sure that the choices are more valid, and we have created a lot more knowledge, especially for Amplify as a framework, so that it picks up things that are already made, and the same for CDK. So that CDK, CloudFormation, and Amplify are no strangers to your tool if you use that MCP. And with that, I would like to give over to Sally, who will go a bit deeper into that and also makes it a bit more real with like a proper live demo.
Let's see. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark. All right. So today we will talk about our journey from going from the vibe into something that is real. GenAI, from the hands that I see, GenAI is still a bit of a thing that we're afraid of. But we have to understand that this is just a tool that is making our lives easier. To use this tool, AWS actually offered you a lot of different options, like Mark said earlier on. For example, we had Knowledge MCP that was allowing you to get some best practices or example codes and so on. We had API that was allowing you to use AWS CLI to get any information from your account, so it was doing the necessary calls for your CLI command. We also had front-end MCP that was allowing you to build a front-end application with React and CDK in the most effective way possible. And we had the ISC and serverless MCPs as well that was allowing you to use these AI agentic IDEs or coding tools to move forward. And maybe you heard not, we released in the middle of July Kiro. Kiro is the agentic IDE that is allowing you to not only vibe code, but also create spec-driven development so you tell what you want from it, and it actually brings it into a more structured way. Today, one more time, I'm happy to announce AWS MCP. AWS MCP is there to bring the knowledge MCP that we have and the API MCP and many others all together. These MCPs are giving you a chance to create your full stack applications through the procedures that we already created for you. We have created more than 30 different procedures to know what to do for having the best experiences for your agents to build an application. For example, in case you want to search for documentation, you don't need to add the documentation MCP anymore. You still can, but you don't have to. You can use the AWS MCP to call that. Do you want to get some information about deploying an app to Amplify? You can get that information directly through the SOPs, through the procedures that we already have. So, I'm not going to stop. I'm here to teach you. With the AWS MCP in place, we want to switch the 10% into 90% so you can have deployment-ready applications through the agentic IDs. If you walk around, you will see this ghost sign all around, and that is Kiro. With that, we are committing to building applications through agentic workflows as well. We are giving you a success rate of more than 90%, and it brings the best practices automatically for you. And one important point is, with large language models, there's always this cutoff date, and one of the solutions to that was actually the MCP servers. Thanks to the AWS MCP, now you will know that you get the latest version of it, you get all the security-related information as well, so you know, in case you're a front-end developer like me, I have been building front-end apps for 10 years before I joined AWS. And for me, AWS is still a new world that I learn every day. And if you're coming from a world like me, it allows you to move faster and learn better as well. But of course, like every one of you do not push the code from AI into the production. So what do we offer from the SOP perspective for the Amplify? From the Amplify perspective, we have 3 important SOPs that you can use. One of them is the front-end MCP that is giving you a chance to use the front-end libraries of Amplify to connect with the backend structure that you build. The second one is the backend one. Building backend with Amplify can be easy, but also complicated at the same time. People ask a lot of questions on how to do complicated data operations. Now, thanks to the MCP, you can actually build these operations by telling the AI on how to do it and what to do it, or even ask to learn or get the documentation as well. You don't have to let agent do its tricks. You can just ask agent to bring you the information. You will be still the person to open this. Because again, these are your tools, and it depends on you on how you want to use these tools. And we also have the deployment pipeline. For Amplify, we have something we call Amplify Hosting, which again, you will see in a second. Amplify Hosting is there for you to deploy your front-end application easily without touching any additional AWS services. We all know CloudFront, S3 works really fine and all, but if you come from front-end world, when you jump to the AWS console, it's a scary time for you. You know that like there are hundreds of things written off, and you don't know which one to click. And we are all afraid of paying thousands of dollars by making a simple click mistake. That is why these tools are allowing you to cut that knowledge gap or this fear as well. I was about to wrap then the trademark. All right, so we have the demo. And today what we're going to build is, I'm going to show you 2 apps that I built. One is the app that's showcasing what we have built in 2025 with Amplify. And the second thing is, I was talking to Mark about like how to communicate with people during reInvent. And I thought of bringing the maps of reInvent and just giving people a chance to share their location for a certain time period so others can see if they can find them and ask them questions. It's not like they dox their location. It's actually you share where you are so people can find you and ask your questions. So with that, I will go back to the demo. And I'm really curious how it's going to work with this and the coding. First question, can everyone read this? Everything good on the backside? Perfect. So this is the first application that I built. This application is the Showcase app, but the apple of my eye is the map face meetup that I call. So let's run this application. To run the application, this is a simple React application. So what I'm going to do is I will just do npm run dev. And this will just run my application locally, so we will see how it looks like with mock data. So I will go back, open up my window, and thank you very much. And 5371, I think it was, or no, it's 8081. All right. 8081. All right. So this is a very basic application that I built. It has the sign in and sign up flows, and like I can just add my this is totally random stuff, and like this shouldn't connect to the backend yet. Let me check it really quickly. The goal of this application is, actually let me show you the video so we can build it together. No. The goal of this application is to showcase you real-time, the file upload mechanism, and actually just everything that you would do with authentication and so on, including the pipelines that you would normally do with functions and everything else as well. So I will do one more npm run dev, and I would hope that demo gods would allow me to showcase you this thing. I have a working version of it, but I really want to build this with you. So let's say that this is my name, this is this. All right, so this is how it looks like. So this is the map that you have probably seen around. And this is the Expo Hall map as well that I found online. I hope it's correct. So what you will do is you can click here and you can say that I will be at the AWS village. You can select the services that you know fine, like CloudFront, for example, add even a picture, and it will show a marker, and you will automatically see, the other people are going to automatically see how it will look like as well. So to turn this mock data into real data, I prepared some prompts, and I want to take you through the prompt and tell you a few tips and tricks to build your applications through prompts as well. The first thing that I want to tell you is creating a prompt, we will have one single prompt just for the sake of making it run everything. But first rule, never have a full prompt like this. Split it up into multiple ones. Agents are like your kids, you know. You have to tell them exactly what they need or what they need to do. They will say no in the beginning because, again, they will ask more questions. But later on, it will come to the place that you want it to be. In here, I said, use Amplify Gen 2 and use the AWS MCP server that I have mentioned today that we have released to build this application. I added an application overview, and I added some like backend requirements on like what to do for URLs, the marker, basically for everything. We have Lambda triggers, so I don't need to do the email confirmation for every user that I have created. Every single detail that I have here is there, so I can let this thing know that it needs to do a proper implementation for this. With everything in place, what I will do is I will add even one point here extra and say that like make sure you remove the mock data and actually use the real data at the end. I don't want to keep you on hold. That's why I also want to talk at the same time. In here, I will you don't have to make things complicated. You can just say, so you can just simply say what you need in the one way. And it's important that you keep it numbered so it knows what is the most important one and what is structured as well. With everything in place, I will just copy and paste this thing. It's touching my lips now. I feel uncomfortable. Really, it's okay. Maybe this is better, but then this way it feels super interesting. You hear me good, right? Yeah. This is how I drink my tea. So I started the session, right? What it does is it takes everything and first it gets through the application. It tries to understand what it needs to do. For this, we have something we call in Cure steering files. Steering files are given information about your application to the agents, so they don't need to read every single file, but they would have an understanding of what they need to do. And in here, it reads everything. It checks more clients, so it knows what it needs to change and what it needs to remove later on as well. So next thing that I want to show is, as you see, it calls something called SOP over there. This SOP is one of these profiles or procedures that is allowing you to build these applications. And in here, we have the Amplify backend implementation one that I have mentioned earlier on, and it is calling them directly. So I will just call it. It will get that information and showcase it directly. Like I said, we also have the front end for the front end libraries. We also have the deployment for the deployment part of things as well. It might need to call some AWS CLI as well. Then it will call the AWS tool inside it as well. How many of you have not heard of MCP servers before? Okay. For the few folks, I want to give a very basic example that everyone gives me as well. MCP server. Is it for me? Okay. MCP servers are basically universal buses for your agents to get information in the most efficient way possible. This allows you to get the latest information from a third party or official party immediately. Earlier on, we needed to do, for example, vector database and so on to bring these informations. But MCP changes the way that we build things. However, it's not also the lifesaver thing. You shouldn't put your very delicate data to the MCP as well. It's not, it's not secure. It's basically allowing you to expand the knowledge. So large language models cutoff date doesn't mean to you at the end because of these. Anyway, we are creating this stuff. In the meantime, it does that. I want to also showcase the other application that we have built, and I want to showcase what we have built in Amplify in 2025. How many of you have built an application with Amplify Gen 2 before? Nice. All right, so let's showcase from there. I will say, I trust you, you can do this thing. And I will go back. So for building an Amplify application, when this is bigger, it's more visible. For building an Amplify application, you have to initialize the app by installing, by saying npm create amplify. And this will create this amplify folder that you see here. From the Amplify perspective, the most important one is the backend.ts file that we have here. The backend.ts file keeps the infrastructure information that you need about Amplify or overall AWS. And you can add any feature or any service that you want in the human readable way, like auth, storage, and so on. And to build them, you need to create an auth folder or storage folder or any folder that you want to build with the service that you want. And these things will allow you to just get these all together and make a composition of your infrastructure directly. For example, for authentication, we say, I have the email authentication, and I want to have a multi-factor authentication because we released it this year as well with email. To use the multi-factor authentication, Cognito asks you to have a phone number alongside it as well. So you have to have it too. And the sender of the email to get the confirmation is like one email that I have. And from the storage perspective, it's just an image. And we will showcase how the storage browser works as well. In here, we define the storage as the name. The name defines the beginning part of your bucket because S3, as you know, has universal naming, so it needs to be unique. And we have the rules for public, protected, and private. Private is for you, protected is for everyone authenticated, and public is for everyone. With this in place, let me showcase how they look like. So we have this application. We have the web storage, email MFA, and web authentication to showcase everything to you. So first of all, let me show the authentication workflow. With the authentication workflow in place, I will showcase the passkey. Passkey is the new way of authenticating through your biometrics. If your platform supports through camera, you can do facial recognition, finger recognition, whatever you find useful, you can do it that way. How we do it is through two things. You can have your custom way, or we have a ready-to-use UI component called Authenticator. An Authenticator basically looks like this. We have the sign-in and create account. So you can just create an account. I will just use my burner account because my Amazon email didn't work, so I will use the other one. So it will automatically send a confirmation email. Now I will read the confirmation email quickly. And with the confirmation email, I will be able to log in and do everything that I need. So let me use that one very quickly. I know I can trust you, but I still want to make sure that I have the right information. All right, so let's go back to the demo. So I have my code in place, right? And I'm confirming that. And once I confirm that, now I'm inside and I have my email and so on. To register a new passkey, we have directly APIs, directly functions that you can call from our libraries. So I click here and it will automatically showcase the email address. And once I selected the profile, it will directly add it on Chrome. So if I sign out now and go back to sign in with passkey, and click on this button, it will show me that. And when I use my finger, it will allow me to log in. So this was more or less the passkey approach with biometrics. The second one that I want to showcase is, in the meantime, I want to check out this thing. Yes, it is reading every information. Another one that I want to showcase is the storage browser. Storage browser is a plug-in and use kind of component that like we have Authenticator as well. This allows you to use S3 without extra hassle. We have UI components directly you can use with the structure that you have built. For example, in the protected one, like we have nothing here, I can just upload an image by like dropping something. I will just drop very quickly. All right, let's go back to demo. So you can see that like I put an image here and I can just click on the upload button. Once I click on the upload button, I can go back to the protected and I can, for example, display the image that has been created. I can click on download to be able to download the image directly, like it is here. I can also do simple operations like deleting and so on as well. With all of these, imagine you can just do it with one line of code. You don't need to think about how to do it and what to do it. Everything is happening through Amplify's way of building apps, which is, let me go back. Which is through the Amplify outputs.json file here. It keeps all the information that we need, and it allows us to share this through the components as well. But this is not it. We have more things to showcase. In the meantime, other thing works. And I want to showcase the multi-factor authentication as well. Last year, we have announced the TP, so you can use the authenticator apps like Google Authenticator and Authy and so on. And you can enable it with one click or one call to the APIs. And this way, now if I sign out and if I sign in, Now it will ask for a confirmation code to me. And the confirmation code should be coming to here as well. Yeah, sure. Yeah, the confirmation code is here as well. So I can click, close it, go back, and paste this one here. So if I confirm now, I have the multi-factor authentication. For all of these, what we did was two things. One was calling the library from the front end, and second thing was, you have seen the authentication workflow, right? Adding these information about the auth here was the way to go. Like adding this true to go. Let's do a time check. All right. So we have showcased like multi-factor, we have showcased the storage and so on. I will take you through the code, but before I do, I want to check out what we are doing. It is doing some changes, that's good. Meanwhile, it does that, let's go back and check out the code. For the storage, for the UI component, what you need to check out is how we are using this. Let me showcase the storage page. In the storage page, we have many components that we have used, about the description, the storage browser, and so on and so forth. This allows us to, something is moving forward. And not that one, okay. So this allows us to actually bring in the storage browser directly into place. So let me find the code. It's really hard with this. So if I go to the demo here, you have to show. Yes. So everything that we have here, like we are first configuring the browser here, the Amplify here. Before we use the Amplify libraries, we have to pass in the information directly. The search browser here gets the adapter to get the authentication, not only authentication, but authorization flow work as well. Search browser works directly through the UI components that you have created. And you can just embed it into anything, including the card components as well. And here you can see that we have the authenticator. In case the user is not authenticated, we don't want to showcase them the storage browser. So everything can be through this one line of code that is coming from the Amplify UI libraries itself. All right, so let me go back. And in the meantime, what it does, I want to showcase you one last thing and how we have deployed it, how AWS Amplify hosting works. And this year, we also announced WAF support, which will allow you to have firewall mechanism easier. So let's go back and let me, again, go for a moment so I can log in really quickly. Federate. All right, so let me go back to demo. So in the AWS Amplify, if you go to the AWS Amplify, you will see either an empty page in case you didn't do it, or every application that you have created. For the Amplify showcase, we have this application in place. Everything that I've shown you was out of the deployment stuff, so I didn't use the local version for it. So you can see this is the real one. So you can see that you can see the previous deployments, the statuses, the problems that happen with them. Also for hosting, you can have many different approaches. And one of them is the firewall. With this one click here, now you can have WAF support directly. So you can prevent additional attacks and so on to happen to your Amplify front-end applications with a single click. It allows you to protect yourself from the common vulnerabilities automatically, malicious actors. For example, someone might try to just send a user agent called like my user agent or something, and if it will automatically trigger backend calls directly. And of course, block IP addresses to or that not as well. With these, see what we are doing. Still,
I'm very happy that Sally could actually do a live demo one-handed with a mic holding in the other hand. I don't know if I would have dared try. So what you could see is that there was a lot of complex features like passkey, storage browser, web application firewall, all kinds of things, right? But the amount of code necessary was like in the 20s of lines of code instead of hundreds if you try to do a Boto3 application with all the SDK calls. And because it's so little code necessary, and we can guide the AI to actually use those few pieces, ready-made components, it is much easier to review. I mean, I don't know if you have seen a 600-line PR on GitHub with just a ship it underneath and a 10-line request that got like 10 comments on it. But that's where we are, right? So you see like hundreds of lines of code, and at some point you say, yeah, okay, go ahead. Okay. So for 2026, this is something that we plan for Amplify. So first and foremost, we want to get deeper integration with CDK. That is also because CDK and Amplify are in one team underneath me. And what we want to have is that you have more escape hatches, that you can use more constructs, that you can use more components within AWS without having to do custom. And if you think about a framework, usually frameworks have a certain limit, and then you're stuck. If you want to do something custom, you need to do a lot of handstands to do it. But in our case, we actually want to give you the full power of AWS, but with everything with sensible defaults that most of you need. Like we can cater to the 95%, and the 5% should still have a good time to actually escape where they need to go. Amplify libraries working with any other IAC platform is something that we have in mind. If you have created your stuff with Terraform beforehand, I don't mind, that's fine. But Amplify should be able to recognize what infrastructure there is and actually apply that. And we would like to go even deeper on integration with other AI tools. And because we are an open source framework, please reach out over GitHub, over Discord, to tell us what you need for your application development. And the last but not least, the AWS MCP also is part of my teams. We will get more and more deep SOPs in there to actually help you to get things out live as quickly as possible. So, there you go. So, okay. So, please reach out to us. The Amplify documentation on GitHub. If you really want to give us feedback, if you have feature requests, please, please, please give them to us. And on Amplify Discord to really have conversation with my team directly. And at the end of this talk, I would really like to ask you to also go to that survey. We would like to know a little bit better on how you use IAC, what you actually demand there, how your experience is using it, and what we can do to improve it further. So CDK and CloudFormation, we are all trying to get things forward for you so that you can have a good time. And let's see if the application now is deployed. Almost there.
Okay, we are almost there. I know with a lot of setbacks and so on, it was a very interesting session, but thanks for sticking around. Thanks for being here. For us, it's really important that we tell you like everything that we have done for reInvent, not only reInvent, but also for Amplify as well. Amplify is one of those, I would say, services that is like very close to my heart. And I'm really happy that we can showcase what we have built around it. So right now, it says it built everything. It actually deleted the mock files and so on. So let's see if everything is working fine. We will start off with, I hope, with a proper sign-in flow. Then afterwards, we will add the marker. And if it works, that would be great. If it doesn't, then I will share the code with you later on. I will open source it, hopefully, so you can try it yourself as well. All right, so everything is in place. Let's go. Let's create a new user. So, like first thing that we will see is it is directly going to say that, okay, the account is created, everything is placed as. So once the account is created, it will send an information and so on. But I didn't want this. I actually wanted it to skip it. So you can add this flow directly into it as well. And it should have, but let's see. So let's see what it did for Amplify. Yeah, for the pre-sign up, we have everything in place. So maybe it was just a simple error. Let's see how we can log in. There's already a signing user, I know. Let me in. No. All right, let's do one more round and we will be good. Let's see if we can see the problem and fix it immediately. So right now what it does is it actually confirms the user and everything, but it is not allowing me to move forward with it. So the issue might be around after signing in and so on. So I just check the auth flow, the auth component, and once within directly. It will check it will check directly the state, which is use auth is controlling the state for the authentication for the app, and it uploads everything and checks out the run build. You can see that for every change that it does, it commits stuff. This is what I tell him to do.
Sounds
tell
awful.
it to do, so it can know what I have changed and so on as well. And once everything in place, we will continue. This is also not working.
It keeps dropping out.
Might be the only, this might be the only section.
Sorry, everybody. We're working the problem.
This might be the only session in Reinvent history to have 5 or 6 different microphones in place. Yeah. All right, we started off. Let me open up the Dev Connect here. Let me do a refresh and log in. Come on. I will just do one more thing. If it doesn't work, I will cheat and I already have a deployed version. I will just showcase you that one. Yes, so we logged in, and once we logged in, the next thing that we will do is to add a location here. I will say Expo at the Venetian. I will just say, for example, I'm an expert in API gateway. It will add the user directly, and you can see that we have something here. You can also upload images too, so I can just click on here and say again, ARIA, I stay at ARIA, so I will just write ARIA and say ECS, and no worries at all. And I will just select an image that is showing me, and I will just upload that image. And once that image is uploaded, you can see that it actually brought everything together, so it cascaded. And when I come in, you can see that both of the markers has changed because I added my image. And when I create a new user, it will showcase the others as well. So demo worked. The storage happened, everything. And we can slowly take time. Everyone sticking. And